Hi, I'm Lauri Flaquer of Soltar Solutions, and I'm here today on Focus Forward. I just wanted to let you know something that's really important that I just found out recently about Success Magazine. I love it. I recommend everybody get it. And the thing I like the most about it, it comes with its own DVD. So you don't even have to read the whole magazine. You can actually listen to the magazine. And I love that. That way I can multitask and learn at the same time. Fabulous. I recommend everybody get it. Today, I am here with the internationally recognized celebrity portrait artist, Anthony Raymond Whelihan. I am so excited to be here with him today. Anthony has painted for the NFL, Disney, the Bruce Lee Foundation, and has painted celebrity portraits for everyone, including Judy Garland, Jennifer Hudson, which I saw, which is fabulous, Gladys Knight, and a slew of others. And I'm thrilled to have Anthony here on the show today. Tony, you are brilliant. You've got to tell me how you do it. Tell me about how did you come up with this idea? How did you come up with this? It's phenomenal.
Well, I think I've always painted, well, for all my life. I guess I started in kindergarten, and I didn't even know that I had done that until we were doing a benefit, and this woman was there at my table, and she asked me if the artist Whelihan was going to be there, and of course, I kind of looked around because my friends go to great lengths to set me up, and I said, yes, he is, I'm he, and she goes, well, I'm Ruth Hansen, your kindergarten teacher. And I'm like, okay, and so we had this wonderful chat. She was just so brilliant, and she actually has some drawings of mine from kindergarten. And so I asked her, I said, you mean that you collected all the drawings from all of your students in kindergarten? She goes, no, just yours.
Oh, come on now, really?
This is true.
Oh, I love it, I love it. So I have a question. How did you get into this niche of, doing these celebrity portraits?
Well, this is something I think that it kind of transpired because I've always been fascinated with film and music, and just, it's the whole talent end of it that has always fascinated with me, especially like older movies with Dietrich and Monroe and things like that. And I think it kind of developed into going into the contemporary stars and celebrities like that. And so I was fortunate enough to actually get the Bruce Lee Foundation called me one day, and I was on the phone with a gallery in New York, and all of a sudden I see on my monitor Bruce Lee Foundation, and I'm like, I got to take this, because I had no idea. Well, at that time I was on the cover of Northwest Airlines World Traveler magazine, and I had done a portrait of Jim Thorpe, and their representatives from the Bruce Lee Foundation happened to be on that flight, and they were on their way, I think, to Japan or somewhere like that. And they saw this cover, and then they read the article, and later on I found out that right there the director decided I was the only one that could paint the portrait of Bruce Lee for their big anniversary coming up. And so they called me, and they asked, of course money was an issue, and so they asked about the pricing and how this works, and so they were very enticing with this, and so I walked them through it, and they have a board of directors, and I'm like, well, this is how you could pay for this. You have each board of director put in so much money, and in return they'll get a signed special print, so something for what they're giving, and it'll allow you not to use the foundation money. And they thought that that was really good. And then the actual event was in Las Vegas, and so they flew us out to Las Vegas, and we were there for 4 days. And we also, we unveiled the piece, and it was just, it was a really exciting time because I got to really understand the Bruce Lee whole concept. And growing up, you're watching the Bruce Lee films, and of course, it was kind of interesting, to say the least, but it was totally opposite of what I was led to believe. When we got out there, everything was physical, mental, take care of your mind, take care of your body. It was not this, kind of crazy kung fu thing, even though, there was a lot of martial arts, but the martial arts end of it was more about taking care of yourself and understanding yourself and how things work. And so for us, it was so incredible. And wherever we went in Las Vegas, people were coming up to us with posters that they wanted me to sign. Every day after one of the events, I would sit at a booth and sign people's posters, and the line was forever. And I don't know if the line was that long or I had to find out
all the way to
about
LA.
Each person. So I had this guy come up and I was talking with him, and he goes, well, now we're all going to this restaurant tonight. Why don't you join us? And so this was all the board of directors and Bruce Lee's widow and all these people. So we go into the restaurant, and we tell them who we are and who we're with, and they start taking us back into the dish room. And I'm like, we haven't even eaten. How do you know I can't pay? And so we get heading down there, and all of a sudden they push the side of the wall. And the wall opens, and here's this private dining area where all of these kung fu artists and martial artists are. And there they presented me a martial arts medallion. And so this was, you know, I looked at some of this stuff, and there are many times that I never really look back at things that happen, but I'm constantly pinching myself, because to have some of the wonderful things that I've been able to witness and to participate in, it's like a dream.
Oh, well, that sounds phenomenal. You got the medallion and you never even had to throw a kick, right?
Well, you wouldn't want me to do that.
So, listen, I know you are a phenomenal marketer, and what I'd like to talk about today is how an artist can go about marketing their work, because many artists, especially, you know, the people that I meet, they have so many questions about how they can go about, you know, marketing, making money. They don't want to be commercial, whatever. So I would like you to tell us how you've been able to manage your career right on up to the top.
Well, I think the marketing aspect of it, you really have to develop it yourself. It has to be geared to you. One person's marketing strategy is not going to work for the next person. And you have to be able to fall down a lot and pick yourself back up. And to me, first of all, you have to be confident in your work. You know, that is the number one thing. Then you have to find where your niche is. You have to decide, okay, do I want to be a sports artist? Do I want to be a painter of icons? Where do I want to go with this? But with me, it was all of it. It was all of the above. I just wanted to, if someone wanted a painting of a tractor, I wanted to be able to do that. And so I think that opened me up for many different things to come my way. And then the second thing you want to do is, I think is very important, is you want to subscribe to art magazines. You want to keep yourself informed, you know, on what's going on as far as the culture, where the trends are. Not that you're going to follow that, but you still, you know, you want to fill yourself with as much knowledge as you can. And also with art magazines, there are so many competitions. National, international, biennials, triennials. And these are things that I think are important for a young artist, or any artist, is to enter some of these contests. Because if you enter a contest and you get in, what it does for you is wonderful. What it does for your career is even more so, because now you're building your resume. You're building something that will launch you to the next level. And so I think that that's very important. Plus the fact that you get this fabulous cow ribbon like the 4-H Club. I mean, I've never quite understood that. You know, I'm watching everybody else, they're getting, you know, crystal vases and silver cups, and I'm getting cow ribbons. You know, It's like, what is this? But at the same time, it just elevates you to another level. And I think that that's good, because your confidence, you know, you're out there. You know, when people, many times when I'm doing shows, I did one in New York, and they wanted me to wear this tag that says, hello, I'm, and I put lost. Because I don't want people to be intimidated by me when they're looking at my art. And so we had this one woman, and she was looking at my stuff, and I was there with her, and I said, what do you think? And she goes, I have no idea. She goes, this is just psychedelic. I just don't get it. So I said, do you think he smoked pot? And she just became this Cheshire cat. She just thought that was so funny. And so we had this big conversation. She goes, well, how do you know so much about this work? I said, oh, I love him. And so later on, they introduced me, and she came up to me, and she goes, you're up. And we have been in contact ever since.
Oh, that's nice.
You know, and she said that what I did was make her feel comfortable with something that she was unaware of, or a style that she wasn't maybe fond of. You know, and art should not be threatening.
So listen, I don't want to be controversial, but I'm going to be, because the first answer that you gave me sounded to me like you said one thing and then you turned around and you said another. You said, find your niche. Okay, that's what you said.
Correct.
That's what I heard. And then you said, but if somebody wants you to paint a tractor, I want to be able to paint a tractor, and I want to do it all. So I want to know, how are you finding your niche and doing it all, number one? And the second part of that question is, how are you so successful at doing that? Because the NFL, I mean, hello, Disney, wow, worlds apart. And then the stuff that I'm seeing here, and the celebrity stuff, but I see you successful in all of it. So you're saying find your niche, and then you're saying, but do it all. So you're going to have to give us a better answer than that.
That's a very good question, but it's absolutely true. You find your niche, which allows you to continue. With me, my work and all of the wonderful things that have come my way are dominoes. One thing has led to the next. So I found what I want to do. My style is very distinctively me. And when you're familiar with my work, no matter where you go in the world and you see it, you know it's mine. Now, I don't know if that's good or bad, but in school, we were all taught, to paint that bowl of fruit, and I was painting apples as bananas. I mean, I was mixing it up, and in parochial school, the nuns actually brought my parents in on a parent-teacher conference, and I remember all this stuff because people like to tell me. And the nuns just didn't understand why I was coloring outside the line. And so knowing my parents went to this, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm going to be in big trouble here. My dad came home, he said, don't worry about it. I mean, if that's what they found important, it's like, I think there's a few more things. But that's why I think at that time, Catholics coming out of parochial school were inept at math and many things. We knew all about the Bible. But there was a lot of things in life that we were not familiar with. And so to me, finding yourself, and I've not painted a tractor actually yet, so if John Deere's out there, give me a call. But it's, you should never be afraid of something. You should always give it your best. Let it work itself through.
So what I'm hearing you say is your niche is not necessarily a thing or a subject matter. Your niche is actually your style. Is that what I'm hearing?
Style is part of it, but
Okay.
it's also your persona. I think that for an artist must become his work. It's you're in that. When people see that, hopefully they understand you.
Yeah, but remember that a lot of artists, I think, are beaten down. People are telling them all the time that their work isn't good enough. They should change this. They should change that. How do they stand up to that? How did you stand up to this?
Well, first I got rid of the Mattel sticker on my forehead. Then I fired my agent, who had embezzled something close to $50,000 from me before I realized, what had happened. And again, it's a falling down process. You have to be willing to fall down and get back up, because every time you do, you become stronger. And so to me, you just continue on. The beating down of artists is so common because for some reason they assume that if you're an artist, you're not quite as bright. You're just kind of out there. You're supposed to be, my board of directors tells me, or I don't think I worded that right, that I'm too normal, that I need to be more eccentric.
Do they know you?
That's what I thought. But they look at, look at other artists. You look at Warhol and you look at, Van Gogh, and you look at some of these, really famous artists, and they all have issues. They all had angst. And I did a lecture at MCAD, and I went in and I had I think 50-some students. And one of the students went to the dean of schools and complained about me because I'm not a real artist because I didn't have the angst. And so I actually talked with her later. I said, I'm here to motivate you, not depress you. And I found that discerning, because I connected with every other student but that one, and that bothered me. And so at the end, we had this contest. At the end of my lecture, I did two lectures there, and I have a line of silk ties out, and so they all got ties, and they had to go into the community and do something with these ties. One gal, she took the tie and tied it around Mary Tyler Moore and took photographs. Another guy had a homeless person that says, I'll work for food, and he was wearing a tie. And these kids were so imaginative and so incredible. And of course, my little complainer, she just wasn't interested at all. And so at the end, we actually gave out awards and stuff, and so she didn't get one. And I waited till the end, just to watch the fumes coming out of. I mean, I could just feel it. And then she got an award. I gave her one, because I don't. Being knocked down is not good. Learning is much better. As long as there's something good that's going to come out, of your little trauma or whatever it is that you're having, it again elevates you. And to me, this is what the artists need, especially these young artists. They need guidance. They need someone to tell them, try this, and if it doesn't work, we'll try this. And when I was in the print class at the University of Wisconsin Stout, and I had won like a major award in printing, and so of course I thought I was it. And so I came in one day and I was working on a screen, and it just wasn't going right. And so I threw this little tantrum, and I threw the ink, and the ink bounced off this, and it hit 3 other students' work. And I was suspended for 2 weeks. And so that was a real learning experience, because I realized I'm not all that, and no one should ever think they are, because there's going to be someone else that's going to come up and just take it away from you. But to me, too, I've always loved what I do. There's something, I love the colors. My work is synonymous with the brilliant colors, the primary colors. There's just something about that. And we'll have clients over, and they'll come in with designers, and, well, that really doesn't go with my art, and my room is red. I said, your whole room is red? I said, oh my God, can you stand it? I said, try eclectic.
Exactly.
If you have a traditional home, put a piece of contemporary art in there.
Exactly.
Wake it up.
Exactly.
You'll just be so amazed. But again, back to the marketing end of it, there's so many ways for young artists or any artist to get out there. And
okay, so tell me what they are.
My big one is to pick a charity. Find a charity that's dear to your heart, something, that really means something to you, or something that, has happened in your life. Find that charity, create art for that charity, give that charity a piece of your art to be either live auction or silent auction, get it out there. And they kind of, when I tell kids this, they kind of look at me like, why? Someone might buy it. And I said, exactly. And they're going to buy it, and the money's going to go to this wonderful charity. You are doing something really good, and then you're going to see what happens.
Okay, but it's more than that, because I know that you have a whole system that you go through with that.
Of course.
It doesn't stop there. So tell me about how you take and you really maximize that donation or that opportunity.
Well, and again, I think it's because of your background, it's because of your resume that elevates you to a point where charities are going to come to you. And again, anytime you're trying to just like give your stuff, nobody wants it. You must put a value. You have to value your own work, or no one else will. And so now when we do our charities, and I have probably 7 major charities that I've been doing for years, and one I've been doing for 18 years. And for that one, I create the celebrity portrait every year of the performer that's coming into town for the big benefit. And the year that I did Lionel Richie, he came out and they auctioned the piece off, and it went for $17,000. All of the money, including the frame money, everything went to this organization, to all of their programs. And so Lionel came out and he stopped the concert twice to talk about the fact that someone spent that much money on a portrait of him. And so afterwards, of course, I'm backstage, with them, because they have to sign the piece, because their agents, which is another whole story, their agents send me photographs that I work from. The days of sitting are over. Nobody has time to come and sit for you in the studio. And so we had this great conversation, and again, I've always liked his music. I always thought that he was a true talent. But when you actually get to meet them, after you've created the portrait, it's fascinating, because 9 times out of 10, I've captured exactly the essence of who they are.
Now, how do you do that?
It has something to do with, when I start working, I'm dealing with looking at whatever it is they sent me, and I cannot work from anything else. So I can't interject something like, this might be nice. I have to work with the material that they send me, which is a challenge. And again, you're sitting there for 2-3 weeks, working on this portrait of this person, and you're looking at his eyes, and you're looking at his expression, and granted, it's just a photograph, but you're still able to connect. And then meeting them in person, and it's just the best. So that's, again, to me, the charity organizations are wonderful. Or to go in, if you are more of an illustrator artist, go in and illustrate for a magazine, and again, donate it. We did one where I did the cover of a magazine, and they're like, well, we know we can't afford you. And I said, well, in that case, I'll do it for free. And so I was on this cover for 5 years, one time every year, and I didn't charge them anything, but the requirement was that we had to auction off the original piece, and it had to go to whatever charities we decided. And so it was a win-win. The magazine loved it, but then again, don't think I give everything away. In there, I required a full profile, on my work. I got a full-page ad. So there is reciprocation. I mean, there are things, and again, they have to be willing to do this. There was another organization that I'd been doing for a long time, and they asked me if I could up the ante. And I'm like, up the ante? Let's see, how many thousands of dollars have I raised for you now? And I said, okay, I will do that when you donate a month of your salary. End of conversation.
Oh, so they didn't?
Oh, no.
No more. That was it, huh?
Yeah, we were kind of done with that.
Okay.
And so, I mean, it isn't, you just don't randomly pick, who you want to work with. They have to hold your integrity the same as theirs. There has to be an equal amount of balance so that you feel you're part of it.
So it sounds like a co-branding issue. You find organizations that have similar brands, similar values, similar missions.
Exactly.
And then you work together and you form a long-term relationship. It doesn't sound like this is a flash in the pan.
Right.
Long-term relationship that you figure out exactly how you're going to benefit from that as well as that organization. So can you tell us a little bit about this piece, which I think is absolutely unbelievable?
Well, this work is called American Anthem, and this is a lenticular piece. And in order to create a lenticular, I don't know if people are familiar with what lenticular is, but back in the 50s, in the Cracker Jack box, you got this ring. And on the ring was Batman, Robin, and the Riddler. And if you turn it, it goes from one to the next to the next. And again, in parochial school, it was Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. And so I'm walking around with Batman and Jesus, and I got the whole shebang. I mean, I was well protected. And so, but that's what this is. Of course, it's the technique has jumped, of course. So what it is, I have to create 3 original pieces of art. And then from those 3 pieces of art, then we take it in, and this is the only computer area that I ever use with my work. We take it in on computer and we overlay them, and then we decide what we want to move. And so wherever we want something to move, it has to have 5 of the same images to get it to move. And in order to do that, so as you walk by, you're seeing this one, this one, this one, which gives the illusion of movement. And so but then the lens, there's an actual lens that is placed on top of it, which is what refracts what you're seeing. And they use it a lot in the airports for advertising. It's very low quality, but it gets the point across. Whereas this becomes much more intense and much more fun. If you were to remove the lens from here, it would look like you had glaucoma. It's all fuzzy.
So how many paintings are actually in this?
3.
So there's 3 separate paintings.
3 separate paintings. And this is the last one of this series, and this isn't going to go anywhere because I never used to keep stuff, now I do. But anyway, so it's bottom line, is marketing is something that I think is very important for an artist. And if you don't want to go the agent route, which I would not suggest to an emerging artist, just because, try it on your own so that at least you understand when you do turn it over. Turning the reins over to someone when you don't know what they are is very dangerous. And again, if you're knocked down a couple times and you have to support your family, there's a line that's drawn. You have to support your family. You can't continue to do something where you're losing money and there's no income coming in. So again, that's one of the pitfalls.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question about commercialism. Should artists be afraid to be commercial?
I don't think they should be afraid to be commercial. I think commercial is relative to what you think commercial is. I've been called commercial, and I had a friend of mine who's an artist.
I bet you've been called a lot of things.
Well, actually, but I never sit and take it. But that's all part of it, too. My attorney told me one time, when we ran into an issue, he goes, Tony, he says, this would not happen if you did not already have a reputation where they could come at you. He goes, always just be glad when they spell your name right. I'm like, well,
in New York, we say, speak of me evil, speak of me good, but say something.
Say something. Well, and this is the thing. I do think that, you shouldn't be afraid of it. And again, I think there's so many different realms to try. There's art fairs. There's, there's the Uptown. There's so many different things for a young emerging artist to do it. But again, you're not going to sell your work if no one sees it. So another thing they can do is they could actually have their own show in their apartment. The gallery scene is so different now. than it used to be. I mean, back when I was showing in a lot of galleries, they did something. They actually promoted you. Now the work just sits there, and some people don't even see it because it's back somewhere else. And if you ask, and so when we started kind of leaving the plateau that we were on, we actually would send agents to these galleries, and they would walk in and say, I'd like to see Whelihan. And if they had to go back and dig it out, of somewhere, they were authorized to take the work. And so when we did that, it started something totally new. All of a sudden, they're like, something must be up here. We better see what this is. So we were getting calls about how come, you did this, and I said, well, we're pulling things back in. Now, if you want to carry a Whelihan, you must purchase one. If you purchase one, we will consign two. There's something about when someone has a vested interest, all of a sudden, you're much more important. If you are just like, here you go, and I'll see you next Tuesday, there's no recourse. You're just kind of there.
Exactly. So give me 3 tips that you could give to a budding artist that would be the most important things to stimulate their career that they could do right now.
First would be to make sure that you have a body of work, and to make sure you have a body of work that is representative of you and that you're proud of. That at least gives you the backbone, and this is good. Secondly, decide where you want to go. Do you want to do a charity? Do you want to do enter the competitions? Do you want to, exposure is very important. And how do you get that? That's up to you. There are many times that, just doing a small, intimate little gathering in your home is huge.
Yep.
And you try things, and don't be afraid to fail, because your art is always going to be there.
So I'm just going to ask you a quick question. I know you have a lot of events in your house. Some of those events, do you think that you're having them, or are you having them to stimulate sales?
I think one plays into the other. We do a lot of fundraising at the house. My partner, of course, is an unbelievable cook, and so we'll have like 130 people. He does all the food, and the place looks great, and people come in, and they're happy to be there. People like going to the studio of an artist. There's something exciting about just being invited to that. And so already you're building the enthusiasm and the excitement. So I just think that it's a win-win.
Well, I have to thank you today for giving us so much great information. This has been phenomenal. And Lauri Flaquer from Focus Forward, and this has been a wonderful, wonderful time. Thank you so much,
Thank
Tony.
You.
Hey there, I'm Robert Dempsey with your tips from the net. And today I want to talk about your audience. Now, you can call them your audience, your readers, whatever you want to call them. They are the people that are coming to your website and reading and sharing your content. Because a lot of people will tell you, you'll read this from a lot of marketers, content is king. And then they'll say things like, well, you have to write content that is interesting to people. Well, how do you know about that? Now, we've talked a little bit about that before, but today we really are going to focus on how to find out what your audience is even talking about, what they're really interested in. And really there's 2 things that this comes down to is, number 1, you want to find out the words and phrases that they use. Now the way that you do this is you follow them on social media. That sounds a little scary, like stalking, but it's not. So you follow them on social media, see the words and phrases they use. You can go into LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, and literally you want to grab their language. Now that's number 1. Number 2 is then looking at your analytics for opportunities. And by analytics, I mean either Google Analytics or a real-time analytics tool I love to use is called Hit Sniffer. And what these will tell you is when Google does actually tell you the keywords that people are using to get to your website, you might see some things that you have never even thought of. It's kind of crazy what your blog post will rank for, purely because Google has to put someone in each, they need a page of results is what it really comes down to. And if they don't have anyone in your blog post best matches, they will put that there. But that might show you a number of opportunities that you have to write other content around those topics. So That's it today. Focus on your audience, and I will see you in our next tips.